35, 40 years ago, even back when I first started my business, this is my 45th year in business, I'd run across Japanese gardeners, and a lot of the Japanese gardeners were quite a bit older and had been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years. And some of those Japanese gardeners took so much pride in the way they managed the properties, and a lot of them actually did the planting and brought in the plants and managed them. Often the Japanese gardens that they worked on were stylized gardens. The trees were bonsai'd or pom-pommed or shaped in a Japanese manner. I gotta say, I really appreciate that, because those gardeners, they saw clearly. They saw the whole content of the yard. They saw each individual plant. They stylized them in such a way that was worthy. It was really, really impressive. So, all the way up to today, finding a Japanese gardener, and I hate to say Japanese, because that's like saying the Japanese know what they're doing and the Hispanics don't. I think it's more about the economy. A lot of younger Japanese people, and maybe Asians, Chinese as well, that's not a field they want to go into. Whereas a lot of the Hispanics, that's something that they sort of they gravitate to, landscape and laborers and workers that don't mind doing that kind of work. So you just don't find Japanese gardeners anymore. So getting back to the Hispanic gardeners, there's a lot of good Hispanic gardeners, but rare to find any Hispanic gardener that sees clearly the way the old Japanese gardeners did. I found a couple of properties today that have older Asian homeowners that have maintained their Japanese garden, and I stopped and I'd like to show one to you. So what you may like in a garden or a landscape and what another person may like can be entirely different. So stylized pruning is not something I really enjoy doing. I will do it. It's not something that I encourage. I understand how to do it. Unfortunately, it takes so much time that it's hard to make it financially profitable or viable. But I'm going to share this with you anyway, so I hope you like this. Every once in a while I'll run across a yard that is really, really managed well, and the trees are pruned in a sort of a bonsai style. But I saw this house and I had to pull over and stop. I was told by the neighbor down the street that this guy is Asian and he does all this work himself, and he told me that it was professionally landscaped by a Japanese landscape gardener 35, 40 years ago, and he has been maintaining it himself. So you can tell by looking at the plants, there's virtually not a speck of dead or no stubs. Everything has been managed in a very meticulous manner, and I really appreciate this when I see something like this. It's a stylized type of pruning that you don't see very often. The Japanese maple, they've been stubbing that back a bit, and they don't recognize that there's diseases associated with over pruning, but the foliage on that tree looks pretty darn good. So I can't say that it's a mistake because it's hanging in there. I don't recommend doing that to a Japanese maple, but I mean, even this little plant over here, I'm very, very impressed the way this is taken care of. The pom-poms and the stylized pruning, it's not the way I like to do things, but boy, look at that. That's so much work. Look at the underside here too. Look inside this plant. I mean, everything's been cleaned out. This guy, I don't know him, I've never met him, I don't know anything about him, but I can tell that he takes so much pride of workmanship in these plants. Kudos. My hat's off to him. Very, very nice.